Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Zainab again. I'm still Zainab. I'm a Cohort 5 History Fellow. Thanks for following us on social media and watching HTF Live-ish. Today I'm super stoked to be interviewing a friend, a teacher, and an HTF alumnus, Chip. Chip was a Chip was a Cohort 2 math fellow. He is currently a computer science teacher and also a soccer coach at LPS Oakland, where he was placed for residency 3 years ago. He's been there for the past 3 years and is about to enter his 4th year as a teacher. Thanks so much for joining us today, Chip. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. Just enjoying that teacher summer and trying to rest up for year 4, like you said.
Exciting. Year 4. That's pretty cool to hear. Somebody who's about to enter year 1. I am curious, we usually start off all of these with same question. Why did you choose to join HTF?
Yeah, so I got into college. I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher, but through some various paths, I eventually was coming to the end of college, realizing how important teachers are in the education system and just wanting to give it a try for a couple reasons. So, there's a few different options that you could become a teacher through. But ultimately, I thought HTF was just the strongest program that seriously was focused on developing great teachers. And I feel like they do that both through the classes that you can take through the master's program and also just kind of the setup of the residency year, right? So it's a really good balance between thinking and reflecting and learning about good teaching and actually doing it in your residency year. Mm-hmm. And it's not so much of doing it, like I think some other programs, which just kind of drop you in there. They also realize how difficult teaching is. And, part of the design of the residency year is a reduced load. So you have more time for planning, more time for reflection, and ultimately more time for improving. And I've seen other first-year teachers really struggle when there isn't that extra time to adapt and learn and grow. So I'm really thankful for just the way HTF is structured. And also just point blank, I'm not somebody who's all about the Benjamins or anything like that, but it is a highly subsidized master's from one of the best education schools in the world. So that is also a strong pull for me to join HTF. So, yeah.
Thank you for that very thoughtful response. And I appreciate, there is a great financial option that comes with HTF. To recognize beyond the extensive support they provide. Kind of building off of that, in terms of HTF support and structure, I'm curious how HTF has helped you prepare for this giant adventure of teaching.
It is an adventure, that's for sure. Everyone's first year is kind of crazy in general, just because it's your first time being a real teacher. And then for me, my second year, there was a teacher strike in Oakland. That made it a little bit crazy. And then my third year, we got into this coronavirus crisis. So it has been a lot of unexpected moments. And it does get easier, but in some ways it never really does get easier, if you know what I mean. But I think, HTF has kind of showed me how important it is to have a community to support you through those crazy moments, people to reflect with, to get help from. I still talk to a lot of the my Cohort 2 members, both within the math community and outside of the math community. So I feel like they're really, like I said, a great support system. So I think that's been, just making sure you have a good support system is huge going into any career, but definitely one as unpredictable as teaching can be. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially unpredictable, I feel like, with the strike and pandemic. Those seem pretty exceptional too, beyond the normal unpredictability of teaching.
Yeah, it's been an interesting 3 years for sure.
On that note of like how this community has been, you know, always present and pretty close, I'm curious what does that look like, I guess, or what does HTF community specifically mean for you? What forms does it take?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a very practical sense, like the math team is always like sharing resources. Like I know just recently, shout out to Andy Reardon, who was trying to put together like a nice kind of resource Google Drive folder of all these different math teaching resources. And so we share a lot of different like ways to, you know, teach math better. And so that is the very practical side of that. And then, yeah, I think we also push each other to think about teaching in schools in different ways, and particularly in more liberating or emancipatory ways for our students. Like I think our cohort, even if it's still on GroupMe, is still pushing each other to do better by the kids, and, you know, to be, you know, more pro-justice teachers. And yeah, so I think the community just really pushes off of each other. Yeah.
That's inspiring. I think as like my cohort, I'm in cohort 5. Well, I guess I already said that at the beginning, but I think as we're learning and spending more and more time with each other, just like how can we be pushing each other to be better at our own practice? That's been, I think, on everybody's mind. So cool to hear that like that is a thing that very much happens throughout your time at HTF.
Yeah, it's still going, and I hope you know, one thing we talk about is doing some kind of HTF alumni. There's still a lot of different opportunities for the alumni to get involved through early career engagement, like coaching and funding for different conferences and things like that. But I hope someday we can do like our own conference as a HTF alumni community, just because I think being in person and really learning from each other would be huge. Yeah.
We just did a cohort 4, cohort 5 meeting where cohort 4, who has just completed their first residency year, shared instructional activities that they came up with, and they shared them to us and also to each other. And I think we all realized like, wow, we are one of the biggest resources. Like they've all been in the classroom and we have so much to learn, especially from alumni. So very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about teaching. Like there's so much, there's so many resources out there, so many people to learn from. And I think that's a huge part of the job, is just being able and open-minded to adapting your practice from learning from others. So I think that's what makes you a stronger teacher, just, you know, taking in the best from as many different people as you can. Yeah, very few people just, you know, you imagine teachers, like the really great teachers, as just being, you know, like naturally great at teaching, or, you know, they just have like these gifted talents. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, everyone brings their own genuine side to it. But I think the truly great teachers learn from a lot of different people and build that all into the great teacher that they're becoming. Yeah, people stand on the shoulders of giants, I guess.
Big retweet. Teaching insights and deep philosophy with Chip over here. Lucky if you're tuning in. Yeah. I like that a lot. Maybe switching gears a little bit, like I guess in terms of classroom specific experiences, or just experiences with residency after, could you tell us about a challenging moment that you've encountered with teaching, and how peers, especially like HTF faculty or that community you were talking about, how they might have supported you through it? Just to be honest about some of the difficult parts of teaching.
Yeah. I mean, you run into so many challenges as a teacher. So I'm trying, I had some ideas in mind, but something that also comes to mind is, I was this past quarter, I was discussing a student with some coworkers and via email too, which was strange. Usually talk about students in person.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, I think a coworker had let me know that some language that I used about the student in a way ultimately had them not feeling great and almost kind of triggered in somewhat of a microaggression kind of way. And that was definitely not my intent. But the reason I bring this up is I think with a lot of the work that we've done through HTF is we talked a lot about, you're not going to be perfect and you're going to make mistakes that ultimately hurt people sometimes. And we've grown up in, a racist, socialized environment. And I think, just becoming a more anti-racist teacher over the years, I think as something that I've reflected upon is just, how important it is to admit that you've messed up, try to understand what you've done wrong, and think about how you can be better and ultimately learn from those mistakes. Because I think, the alternative is, especially as a white teacher with a lot of privilege, is just, like pushing that narrative away. And that's ultimately what racism wants you to do. And to not grapple with it and to not grapple with your, complicity in systems, even if you don't want to be racist. But again, we have grown up in a super racist society. So yeah, that's just one moment, but one that, I think happened recently. And I still think about, I'm glad that I went through the HTF program where we've had a lot of conversations about what does it mean to be a white teacher in a classroom of mostly students of color. What does it mean to be a critical pedagogue, and to be setting up students to both navigate and transform a racist society, a classist society. So I think these are big ideas that I think, our whole society needs to grapple with, not just teachers, but if anyone should be leading the way in transforming our society, it's the young people and the teachers that hopefully are helping them lead that change. So I'm just thankful that the HTF community has really pushed me into those conversations. And it's not just all of HTF. I think I've had to do a lot of learning on my own, but that's HTF. I mean, or that's learning in general. No single person or program can teach you everything, but hopefully set you up for more learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for walking me through that. Big, huge retweet on everything you said about identifying. These are words from somebody in your cohort, Ruben, who's been leading some anti-racist education workshops of identify, challenge, and change. That identify part, I think, will probably come up very often in teaching, of unpacking who I am, what I'm doing, and then working with others and teaching myself how to change.
For sure.
Thanks
it's difficult to, I don't know. I was hesitant to share that just because it's difficult to share those kinds of things, but just like you said, identifying those problems is really important, because the alternative is just kind of covering them up or pushing them away. So
right. For our final question and our remaining the 30 or so seconds. I did not manage time as well as I thought, but that's testament to, yeah, thank you for sharing everything. What would you tell somebody who is on the fence about teaching, is unsure?
Yeah, I love this question. I think, ultimately I would need to know a lot more about the person, because I don't think people should just jump into teaching for any old reason, particularly, the education system, and particularly under-resourced communities that HTF has worked with for the most part, with mostly students of color and low-income students. They don't need folks who just jump into teaching, but because it's a huge investment for both the students and yourself too, so you shouldn't just jump into it. I think you should think about it really hard. But if you are ready to really make a strong commitment, it is totally worth it, because there's just not, over the last 3 years, there hasn't been a single morning where I've woken up and been on the way into school and thought like anything along the lines that this doesn't matter, or like, what am I doing with my life? It feels like every morning I wake up and I've got a real purpose and meaning behind the work that I'm doing. So yeah, I don't think anyone should just jump into it for any old reason, but if you are really ready for it, it is an incredible profession and career, and one that I'm really thankful that I've started off my life with, my working life post-college with. So yeah.
Thank you for that so much, and for sharing all of your thoughts, and for being with us today. I'm very grateful. So nice to catch you.
Thank you for organizing this. Love what HTF is doing, and it's great to see the program growing and doing different things. And yeah.
Stay tuned for the next one, and I'll be posting this shortly, which by the time you see it, it will be posted, I guess. So, bye everyone.
Good point. Bye.